Welcome everyone to today's podcast. My name is Michael Faree, your host. I've got a great guest with you today. We've got Aru Anavekar from Botsplash. Really, really cool stuff. I'm going to tell you right now. You're going to watch the whole podcast. Especially don't cut it short. There's really, really cool stuff talked about just even in the last 10 minutes of the podcast. So I promise you, really, really cool stuff. And so we're going to be talking about messaging. We're going to talk about being a female entrepreneur and a whole host of things. But before we dig in, I want to obviously remind you about Lead Generation World. It's going to be happening January 19th through the 21st. Actually, all the sessions are going to be taking place on the 20th and 21st, where we say we're going to be there on the 19th to let you guys sort of register and get going, because that Monday morning we're going to hit the ground running around 9:30. So who should be there? We've got lead buyers from insurance, mortgage, solar, education. We've got tons of sessions for you guys that are going to help you sort of navigate the lead gen ecosystem from the start of the funnel all the way to the end of the sales process. So make sure you register. Right now it's $395. Really, really affordable. We wanted to make a show that gets you to the show, the conference, the hotel, flights for around $1,000 versus just the registration for $1,000. So we hope you can attend. We've got a ton of sessions for sellers and service providers as well. So take a look at the agenda for more specific information on that. You can go to leadgenerationworld.com. I do want to thank our sponsors. I've got the Digital Media Solutions t-shirt on again today. We've got also our other headline sponsor, Lending Tree. So I want to thank you both for supporting Lead Generation World and this podcast. So let's, without any further ado, let's bring in Aru and start talking about text messaging, bots, Facebook Messenger, and then also a little other new development that you want to hear about as well towards the end. So let's get started. Welcome everyone to today's Lead Generation World podcast. I am really excited to have Aru Anavekar here from Botsplash. Aru, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Michael. Been a pleasure.
Yeah. We met, I think actually last year, maybe a little bit before, I guess a little over a year ago.
Was it a year ago? I think it was this year.
Oh, it was this year.
March.
That's right. It was early. Yeah. Sometimes you think time flies and then it doesn't. And it was earlier at LeadsCon, and we had a chance to connect and talk about what you're up to. And it was a pleasure meeting you and hearing all the things that you've got going on. And I'd love to sort of dive into that today. But I do want to kind of get just a little bit of history about Aru and what brought you, to this point in your stage where you started the career and all this sort of stuff. But what was your sort of first entrance into entrepreneurship or basically what brought you to where you are today with Botsplash? Just give me a little history.
Sure. Yeah. I think it was always a inner calling or sort of to do something different and constantly exploring through the years. So even when I first started out my job in technology at Wachovia, I always had the interest in poking into others' roles and business ideas. Like, what do testers do? What do business analysts do? So I always kept myself involved with people outside of just my project or technology zone. So I think that continued over time. And eventually when I was at Lending Tree, thanks to their awesome culture, you get to learn so much about the mortgage industry. From the consumer's perspective, what is it they experience? From the lender's perspective, how do they manage their consumer lead flow and all? So I think all these experiences together brought me to a point where I wanted to extend, flex my muscles a little bit, go independent, and see what is out there as opportunities to explore.
Yeah. So you touched on it. So you started at Wachovia as a
Mhm.
developer there, and did that for a couple years, and then went to Lending Tree. Is that
That's right. I worked at Wachovia, now Wells Fargo. We moved, at that time I was at Greensboro, Winston-Salem area. Moved out to Charlotte in 2008 and said, I am not going back to bank. The things are so slow. I just need something vibrant and nice. But unfortunately, I went right back into the bank for another 6 months with the project. And then while I was hunting for jobs, found Lending Tree, and that has been home for almost a decade for the past, until I went on my own with Botsplash.
right? So
And
you
it was
you
at Lending Tree, yeah, just it was at Lending Tree that I decided to move from technical background to a business background. So I moved on to like sales, implementation engineer, and product management. So that was where I made the transition.
got it. So at Lending Tree, and that was in 2000, what, nine, I guess, 2009,
Yes, I joined
2010.
2009. Yep.
And you started project managing some of their different developments. Is that what I'm hearing?
I joined as a normal development team,
Uh-huh.
and then I joined in education actually. So there was a vertical then called education tree. So I joined into education, transitioned as a team lead into insurance tree, and then moved slowly onto the entire Lending Tree platform. That's where I got the exposure to mortgage. We were doing mortgage calculators, the website, all of it. And eventually I decided to take a break to figure out what it is I want to do long term. Development was great, but I also was more interested in vision of the company. How are business decisions made? What is an ROI? How do projects even come to technology team? So that curiosity and interest got me moving towards business side. The first attempt for best transition was understanding integrations, like how do lenders and consumers even like what brings them together. So
Yeah.
those explorations put me where I was finally at my last role in product and platform management.
Got it. Got it. And Lending Tree during that time was probably going through some transition. I would guess. There were some ups and downs with mortgage, new verticals coming in, new acquisitions of websites and all this sort of stuff, and probably for you to integrate all those different things and understand the different businesses was a amazing learning opportunity, I'd imagine.
Completely agree. It was a great learning, like great exposure and great learning.
Yeah.
The networks we made, the people I met, all of it.
Yeah, that's great. So now you're talking about Lending Tree with regards to web development, process integrations, and all this sort of stuff. How do you get to start thinking about messaging and different platforms with regards to all the different things with Botsplash? So maybe before you do that, tell us just real briefly, and we'll get deeper into
Mhm.
it, but real briefly what Botsplash is.
Sure. So we are software as a service platform, like call it Salesforce, CRM, or anything of these things, right? Where hosted in cloud, enterprises are coming in and using services. The service that we provide is essentially messaging across digital channels. As you know, like just you and me, we have converse with text messaging. You have sent me emails, but sometimes I've preferred to answer to your email via a LinkedIn message. So in our everyday lives, professionally as well as with friends and family, right, we tend to use messaging across different platforms.
Mhm.
So what Botsplash provides is that cohesiveness of bringing all messaging customer journeys to one place for an enterprise. So we are an omni channel for enterprises where every message that ever gets exchanged between customers is brought to one place. And for the customers, we try to give the flexibility so that they can use a channel of their choice so that the process keeps moving on.
Yeah.
Consumers today just need it on hand, right? Like nobody's driving, they're calling Uber. So how do you bring that Uber facility into communication, especially in an industry such as mortgage that has long been needing some overall?
Okay, because I want to get into those case studies, like
Mhm.
case situations with you. But how did you go? So now, how did you go from the product? Where did you see the vision of this sort of this messaging? How did this come about?
It started out in early 2016 with Facebook Messenger coming out with
Mhm.
their interface for messaging. They splitting from the entire Facebook itself and going independent on messaging. WhatsApp was popular, and I don't. In comparison to US population, international population uses WhatsApp very much. And I was using WhatsApp for a few years. And then when Facebook bought WhatsApp, it was just you could see a clear picture. Messaging
Mhm.
was going to be the key. Messaging would have so much data, be it for retargeting of advertisements or targeting our audience. Like every message that someone shares is filled with so much data for intent and all of these things. So we started out the exploration in 2016 with just Facebook. And as we ran our ideas, again, as I this was friends and family, right? You'd walk on the street, you'd meet a friend who's an attorney and ask him, what are your thoughts? Like, would you advertise on Facebook? And he'd be, maybe I would, but I also like what web chats are doing. And then the third person would be maybe a friend at a bakery, and they'll be like, I would really like if someone made their order through a text message because texting is important to me or to my customers. So that's when we figured out it's not about one channel, it's about the distributed channel. Um, Channels of preference could be because of the customers that are trying to get a product or service, or alternatively, a channel is of a priority for a business based on what business they are running. So that's where we said there is a great niche space where we can explore with omnichannel messaging, and we got started out with Botsplash later that year.
Yeah. So man, you said a lot there that spurred a bunch of questions. I tried to grab a pen and write a bunch down here, but one of the things is, and pardon my ignorance here, but you said something that was interesting, which was you asked somebody, would you be interested in advertising on Facebook?
Mhm.
And their answer was, well, I'm not sure, but I would like to be able to communicate via Facebook. Is that so? Is there a combination between companies that are advertising via these social media channels like Facebook, for this example, that are also driving people through messaging on Messenger as well? Is that what people are doing these days?
Yes, if people are not doing, I would highly encourage people should be doing, because think about it, right? Let's say removing the technology, let's just say you go to a brick and mortar shop,
Hmm.
and the response you get from them is, I got, I understand your business needs or your needs for a service. Here is the card. Go home and go back to this other office location whenever you're ready. So the experience people are doing today with Facebook with ads is that's the experience customers are getting. You display the ad on Facebook, they click on it, and you throw them on a landing page or some other website, and the connectivity is lost. You tell this, let's say mortgage itself, the rates are the lowest in 30 years, and
Yeah.
you take them to a page and it's refinance, maybe the customer was looking for a purchase rate. So in those cases, if people consciously try to use Facebook Messenger and keep them inside of that platform, you just start the engagement fast, and you also know who those customers are so that you can retarget them or put them into a subscription model so that you can nurture them better, and when they are ready, you know to close them. So this whole concept of keeping your customer inside the platform that they start in or a digital channel they start in would be very, very valuable.
So I know this may or may not necessarily be your expertise, but is that tied into the ad placement or type that they're doing on Facebook? So how are they driving? How are they keeping people on Facebook? Are they driving to? So if there's an ad, are they driving to their Facebook company profile page, and then somehow? What's sort of
Sure.
the tie-in from an ad to a message? I'm curious to
So
see.
you have two types of ads. Let me start there. One you
Yeah.
can have is messenger ads, wherein if your having a conversation. And I don't know the algorithm that Facebook runs, but
Yeah.
my intention would be, if I'm talking about avocado, the next thing is I'll see an avocado ad in a few hours. So if you're discussing mortgage and your keywords get picked up, a mortgage ad could be shown. When someone clicks on that ad, or when someone clicks on a sponsored ad in feeds, they will get taken to the Facebook page for that company. Alternatively, loan officers or retail branches could run their own Facebook ad and have their own Facebook page and direct it to that branch or that particular individual. So, what sort of we help these individual lenders or enterprises is, whether you have a company page or whether you have branch pages or individual loan officer pages, all those things come into one platform. So every time a consumer clicks an ad, they start the conversation directly in the messenger through the company page and come into the CRM.
Now, is that assuming that when the person gets to the company page, they initiate a message, or is there some trigger within that system that sends a message to them if they click on it? Is it more proactive or reactive?
Both. So what
Okay.
you can do is you can have some pre-qualifier options and questions on your messenger, and the customer can, or the borrower in this case, can go ahead and start getting engaged, and we keep track of what questions did they answer. Or if you have options like, let's say, schedule a call with a loan officer, we can collect that in a form fashion and put it in the auto dialer. So those are some of the use cases, right, that you can try out. Facebook recommends not to be proactive, but you can also provide options such as subscribe for rate changes. And then in that case, similar to TCPA, right, or DNC, like nobody excluded or unsubscribed, but they are subscribing into receiving information
Messages.
updates from your site.
Yeah, yeah. So you actually mentioned a bunch, in your examples as well, brick and mortar, option, an attorney, I think you mentioned, but Botsplash at the moment is focused on the mortgage or the banking
Yep.
process. Um, so, but this really could, I guess, be applied to any vertical, right?
That's right. And we are exploring other industries too. And I get this from my team all the time. They call me, I'm mortgage biased. And I'm like, I live in mortgage world. Like it just
Right.
excites me more. I would like to give back to the mortgage world. So
Yeah.
yes, primarily, most of the use cases are for mortgage, but we are looking at different industries such as pharma, wealth management, education. But
Yeah.
ask me anytime, any day of the time, give me a mortgage use case, and I'll be like, I have one exact right fitting for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I find that when I look at our sort of ecosystem, our performance marketing ecosystem, and then deeper the lead generation world, I see mortgage as somewhat more mature and sophisticated, potentially. It's because you have guys that may have 10 to 15 loan officers that are, I mean, on top of every little process or technology, or that they can do. And then conversely, you may be in another industry that has hundreds of agents,
Yep.
doing something, and they have no idea how to process, inquiries or do anything. So when I look at the mortgage, I'm not surprised that, these types of platforms, these communication things that are fairly cutting edge, are being implemented so easily in that process. There's a transaction, there's a lot of communication going on. It just seems to, so I'm not surprised, focusing on mortgage is a good thing.
Yeah. For me, it's personal challenge to debunk the conversion rates in mortgage business, because many people think a successful business is with 1.5, 2 or 2.5 standard conversion rate. And I think if each lender just spoke more on their digital channels and experience and went multi-channel to offer to their customers, they could get a very higher conversion rate return. Failing to be where your customers are, or failing to engage in a channel that your customers like, you're leaving money on the table and not converting.
Yeah, that's a really great point. So when we look at a mortgage company, we look at probably a couple different channels where they're getting inquiries or they're driving marketing dollars. We have third-party vendors where they're buying these like a lending tree, from. We have their own internal campaigns like the Facebook ads or paid search or display, and then of course referrals or from their own just direct visits from their website. When we look at those sort of three channels, what's sort of a use case for how people are coming into their organization and how they're utilizing the communication channels outside of just picking up the phone and calling, but how are they utilizing Botsplash to sort of manage those different channels and the communication?
Sure. So I'll give you one clean example, right? And this is focused at more when lenders are buying from lead gen. So when you are buying from lead gen, you have the phone number. So what we do at a instant, the lead comes into the CRM, is we send out a text message. And that text message contains a link to the website of the lender. So that text message is so powerful because it gives the borrower three ways of engagement. Call it 3 CTAs or however you want it, right? The borrower can either call the number that they received from text from, and we will route it to the customer's call center, the lender's call center, or we'll look up and see if an agent is available, sync them with that agent so that they can have a chat. If the customer decides to respond back to the text, we will take that response, and again, same life cycle. We'll see if an agent is already assigned, if an agent is not assigned, or if the lender has put, let's say, special routing rules based on the state or licensing, or is the response type requesting for scheduling a call, or is the response type talk to me now? So we'll understand those intents and surface them to the right loan officers for assignment. And the third option is the borrower can just click on the link, go to the website, and we'll have the chat widget bubble on the website. So if they feel, let's say they are looking at a conditional offers page, they have a question, they'll self-identify themselves and start a web chat. So you can compare this, giving 3 CTAs or call to actions on a text, versus what traditionally the lending business is using today. It's an email or a phone call. And we all know how phone calls have their own limitations,
Right,
of getting customer attention.
yeah. So are you finding that when working with companies that loan officers are at certain ages are able to sort of work through the system differently? I mean, so I guess my question is more around the demographics and the implementation of different communication channels for people, not just the consumer, but on the mortgage lender side, how they go about sort of shifting their mindset on how they communicate with the consumer. Seems like a big shift. I mean, it seems like, okay, you're not just going to pick up the phone and smile and dial. You're going to message people. You're going to do this, and to figure out the right process would probably be the biggest challenge. So, is there an ease? Is there a certain way to implement this type of shift throughout an organization, or is it like all or nothing? I don't know if you
Sure,
understand.
yeah. And I think it's more from the organization, how they message such a platform, right? I can clearly tell you, yes, the more younger loan officers or the recent loan officers, they find it more helpful. In fact, they are like, if you don't give me texting, I'm not going to talk. Like, my customers don't want to talk to me. Give me something of texting. So I think organizations or enterprises are already feeling that burn of loan officers themselves asking for a platform for texting, but at the same time, the older generation who have felt more comfortable being, like, for them, hospitality is all about getting on the phone, talking on the phone. But it's the story that you stitch, right? The older generation and the enterprise also understand there are TCPA restrictions, and you can't really call someone at 11:30 p.m. But
Right.
what we have noticed is, just as loan officers have a 9 to 5 job, the customer borrower also has a 9 to 5 job. So if the borrower comes in and says, hey, call me at 11:30 p.m., now because you have that record in the enterprise audit scheme, you are calling them back, or the customer is trying to reach out and call to you back. So with that sense, I think the loan officers also understand that, hey, if I have to make 10 phone calls in a day and not convert anything, but if I can respond back and maybe even have 5 chat conversations within an hour, they clearly see that you have to adapt to what your consumer wants. You cannot be closing by saying, this is the way I work and I expect the borrower or consumer to work in my form and fashion. So I think they are all learning once they explore the system. And we've kept it very, very simple. It's not tacky. Our platform doesn't come with like lots of bells and whistles, but all we expect loan officers to do is, when an incoming message comes in to the platform, just respond to it, whether they use the browser or they use the mobile app or they use their email, whatever form of response they want to use, just respond and be there for their customer.
Yeah. So one other thing I think you sort of touched on earlier was automation. And how does that automation sort of apply? You know, the big thing now is AI, and especially with regards to messaging and text and being able to communicate in an artificial sort of way. Um, does it, how is that being, are you guys utilizing any type of artificial communication intelligence as well, or is it automation based on triggers? Like what?
Sure, it's a mix. uh, Given, like, understand the background of mortgage industry, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
very sensitive to technology changes. At the same time, while we as a company explore all the AI that is out there, we are also cautious about making sure the right models are built for the right use cases. So some examples I will tell you how we utilize it is lead gens, especially. You have lots of affiliates, lead gen, all of different qualities being purchased by a lender. So sometimes the quality is bad and people go, hey, I'm not Mark Smith, you've got the wrong number. So what we do is we try and identify such responses and suppress them from being assigned to an agent.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one less engagement that the agent has to do. Compare that to dialers or auto dialers. Lead comes in, you dial. You don't know if that Mark Smith is a real person. Did they fill it out? Not. But the minute Mark Smith says hello, you're engaging the loan officer on the call. So those, trying and optimizing and seeing to save time for the loan officer is a great encouragement for the lender itself, and also for the loan officers. Their time is not spent. The other way we implement, let's say, the natural language processing or use case is trying and finding if customers want to schedule a call. So trying to when we find indicators such as, let's get on a call, hey, can you call me tomorrow, or I've never heard on your follow-up, we can
Mm-hmm.
prompt some options on the web chat or even text messaging saying, are you attempting to schedule a call? Do you want to pick a date and time? So those are the things where we put automation. And the whole goal is, right, nobody likes to do mundane tasks. Like, we don't have mail people's spread, like giving away mails on a cycle anymore. Like, you are adapting, and if there's anything the loan officers or processors are doing in and out every day, those are the things we'd like to automate.
I'd have to imagine that's got to be difficult to sort of weave in and out the automation from the manual steps, and responses.
Not really. It's the way we handle it is with customer journeys or milestones.
Oh,
So
okay.
you can say if it hits a particular milestone or a disposition point, then automate something. Like one example could be, our platform is a multi agent platform, meaning you can have more than one agent talking to the same consumer.
Okay.
So it can start at a CSR, and if the CSR dispositions it at a particular state, then if, let's say, it's a purchase lead and the customer has not found a home or is not under contract, the CSR agent can disposition it with a follow-up of automation that check back in 5 weeks or some time. So our system automatically will pick that up and try to assign a loan officer to see if that's the right timing. Or if a loan is with a loan officer and it gets locked, then the system will automatically pick up the milestone of lock and assign a loan processor. So those kind of messages, right, when a loan processor is assigned, informing the customer, hey, Mary Jane has been assigned, she's your loan officer, look forward to emails from Mary Jane. Those are things the loan officer can save their time on doing, and our system does it on their behalf.
I mean, obviously, from a business perspective, you're like, oh, does it increase, your conversion rate, overall business rate, and increase more sales or whatever it is?
Mhm.
But then you can also assume, that this increases customer satisfaction, right? Just being able to communicate in the way that they want to, and efficiency and also. So, but what is it that you guys have seen? The benefits of Botsplash and companies implementing this sort of process, this omni messaging process into their system.
So one of the biggest metric, and I say it's big is because to me it's one of the beliefs coming true, is the utilization of agents' time. And when I say agents, it's the loan officers, the processors, everyone, right? The metric we've sort of seen is on an average, people are spending like 30 to 45 minutes on one phone call, which is a one-to-one, versus the most efficient loan officer who is very fancy with multi chats
Mm-hmm.
or can do multitasking can spend up to 6 to 7 conversation within the same time. So
Oh.
that's like increasing your throughput, and every customer is at a different stage, right? Someone is like, hey, just I'm new to this, just direct me to what I should be seeing. And you can expand that and become an expertise with your platforms. Maybe that loan officer is camera friendly. If they can do tutorial videos and start sharing those to a low intent customer versus a very high intent customer who is very at the process of closing a loan, use a different strategy. So what our tool allows is essentially for the loan officers to be more of a consultant or a owners of their business and branch, to be
Mm-hmm.
more entrepreneurial, right? Like use a strategy that works for your customers. And in other metrics, we've seen the lead to app rate being pretty high. And again, sometimes it's not the customer even filling out the application, but literally texting back and saying, hey, this is all my information, you go ahead, fill it on my behalf and get this process going. So customers really, or borrowers don't really have the time to fill out an app, but they are more than happy to give the information and have somebody else fill it out for them.
Yeah.
So those would be some of the benefits, right? Making the process easy. And very high level would be document sharing. Like people love taking pictures of their document and just sending it out as a text message than having to scan it, attach it, or put it onto a secure doc place.
Oh yeah, that's a great point. I mean, it's so much easier to do that. Now, do you? I just came up with before I move on. I wanted to ask you: are you finding that some people are siloing certain activities for specific groups? Because you did mention that multiple people can respond to a text if need be, right?
Mhm.
And maybe there are certain people that are more a little bit better at that than maybe others. Um, but then there's also a way a person can be their own business, an entrepreneur, and manage their own messaging to some extent for their own clients. Is there are you seeing a successful way about going about this? Is it having a team that just sort of manages the chat bot and the texting and the messaging, and another team that handles the phone calls, and then it's all combined, they can kind of see it all, work it all together, or the other
Yeah,
way?
I think that's what most of our clients are using. Like if they know a set of loan officers or even CSRs are good with texting, they are giving them the choice, okay, do texting. If they have another set of people that are great with phone calls, then just have them on the phone calls channels. So that's definitely there because the demographics are there, right? Like what works for a 22-year or 26 or a 36 is completely different based on the time of the day, what jobs they do, and what their expectation is from a business or a customer service standpoint.
Yeah, that's great. And so I wanted to sort of also dive in. Obviously, a female CEO and founder is a great thing, and we would love seeing more and more. And I gotta imagine, you're doing a lot of effort for the entrepreneurial people in your area, right? You started a couple groups. Tell me a little bit about that, what your efforts are there, and how you're helping other people, with the same things that you're doing.
Sure. And there's always a part of selfishness in everything I've started. So I'll
Yeah,
start
of
with
course.
collective hustle. When I joined Botsplash full time and I was attending these local events, me and another female local founder, Sam Smith, who's the founder of Vision, like a color app, we kept seeing each other. It was like if you had to pull us out of the crowd, it's like 40 men, and then you had 5 or 6 females on the other side trying to make eye contacts with other females, right? So that's when we thought, like, what if there was an organization in the city that was run by female founders? Would that be a differentiation to attract more female founders or role models or speakers into the community? Our goal was not like an isolated women's team, but
Mhm.
more so, how do we attract the right people? Because yes, every tribe is formed because of the encouragement we get from each other. If a room looks a certain way, it's because only those certain types of or demographics of people are in that room. So for us, it was like we need something that is not woman focused, but woman encouraging. Like we needed men to be there so that we can listen from them and understand what is it that they do, and if a woman has to do the same thing, how should we go forward with it? So that's how the whole collective hustle started,
Yeah.
with the focus on minority and females.
So before
And
you maybe before you
but
go on to the Charlotte box, I want to know more about, because this is a really great effort that you have going on there. Tell me a little bit about the challenges that you face as a minority and ethnically, and as a female, being a CEO and running a company, and how your group is sort of helping sort of knock down some of those walls, and what kind of progress have you seen as a collective?
first of all, like seeing the faces of females that are doing stuff in the city, right? Like nobody knew about them. And when you hear that there is such a group, there is more people attending. So we would struggle to have introductions with females running business, females in startups, females in tech. That was a big exploration. And also the visibility it gives us individually and the opportunity to interact. Like there are a lot of startups, and one thing I would say with any general startup, right, is you need a team. You always need people that understand your weakness, that have strengths that are not your own, and it's a collaboration. So for females, that networking was a missing part. A lot of females have a great idea, but they need that tech person. If that tech person is a female, great. If that marketing person is a female, great. Like less sentences to be repeated or said or explored, but things just move more smoothly. So that was the biggest achievement. Last year, we did Seed the South, which was like a local startups coming and pitching. Coming next year too, there's another event in January. But overall, getting the community together with the focus of encouraging minorities and females, I think that's the best thing that the city could bring together.
And how many do you have in your group now?
No count. Like seriously, it's
Really?
like it's all open, all come in.
Great.
Sam has been leading more focusedly on that, and we
Yeah.
also partnered with Sogal, which is entrepreneurship organization. I'll admit I've taken a bit of a back step with my
Mhm.
travels and with Botsplash, but more cheers to Sam.
Now, is it a national? Oh no, this is a local thing where you
Just a
get to.
local community.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Well, that's great. Hopefully, yeah, I know you could get too aspirational with these types of things
Yeah.
sometimes, and local is maybe just keeping local is the great thing to do. But obviously, I think there's needs to be more of these types of groups, probably, nationwide.
And that's why I said, right, it was something that we missed when we went to events, and it was like we have to bring something where more people or attendees look like us and are open to asking questions which they might not ask or we might not hear about when people around us don't look like us.
Yeah, no, that's great. If there's anything I could do with, Lead Generation World and events that we'll be putting on with Co-Hustler, or Collective Hustle, sorry. Let me know.
Sure.
I'd love to help. So you've got that going on, and then now, what's the bots and the AI meetup that you've got going on?
Sure. So that I think we started that in while I was with Learning Tree, and the whole thing of I needed to understand more.
Yeah.
What are bots? What is AI? Is it a trendy word which will go away? Like you just have so much, right? There's blockchain, then there's crypto. You have to just choose, and then quantum. So for us, it was essentially a bunch of our friends saying, you know what? If bots is something we believe truly, the whole automation and AI will stick around or will enrich itself and transform. How do we bring people from the city to one place to talk about it? So we started out in 2016 with meetups once a month. We'd have open meetups, pizza time. We'd arrange for the food. Local professors or people who are data scientists or leading a change that was AI focused in their organization would come in and talk for an hour and a half, and then open discussions. And these included people who either wanted to change their careers or move from like being a QA testing into a data scientist. So it was like an open discussion. We'd have anywhere from 40 to 80 people attend each month. So that was for me personally, it was 1 hour of learning. Like whatever I got from it, I would carry that for the next 4 weeks whenever I had to put on my tech hat. So
Yeah.
to me, it was like if I have to learn and if I'm not going to read things continuously or be a hands on it, work hands on these technologies, then what's my way of gaining knowledge?
Yeah. That's great. And so that's still taking place now, right? You're still doing
Yes.
these?
Yep.
Gosh, you got a lot of stuff on your plate. How do you balance it all?
I take easy on family.
Okay.
Just kidding.
they're
No,
they're the ones that, yeah.
yeah, those are the ones that have to suffer the most. Actually, just picking one priority at a time.
Yeah, yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's how, like, if you have a meetup, you just brush up 2 hours before the meetup, make it happen, wake up the next day and pick up your next priority.
Sure, sure, absolutely. It's definitely doable. Well, and so speaking of another thing, you're going to be you are going to be on a panel at Lead Generation World, talking about sort of the art of text messaging and messaging in general, and how companies are utilizing it. So that we'll be able to dive in even deeper on these sort of questions and topics we talked about today. So thank you for being willing to participate in that show. It's being an inaugural year. I know it's sometimes for some people it's kind of crazy to get involved in a first show, but I appreciate you
Oh, I'm
doing
looking
that.
forward to it so much. I mean, 2020, great year to mark, and the first event. I can't wait to get on the plane.
Yeah, good. Well, thank you for doing that. And then if anybody wants to, reach out to you for a host of the great things we talked about today, should they just go to Botsplash, or should they go to your LinkedIn profile and connect with you there? Or is there or should they Facebook message you?
Oh, yes. Facebook message me. I should mention we are also on Google messaging. So if someone finds us on Google on their phone, they can message directly from the search results. So I'm a big promoter of multi-channel user. So
Yes.
if you want to try every channel that you think you can text to us, just try it out.
Yeah. Wait, so before we go, Google Messenger, is that through the email, the Gmail, or is
No,
that different?
I won't give more information due to the NDA, but if you, okay, let's do this live. You have your phone, just search for us on Google.
Okay. So I first have to go to Google because I think
Just go
it's
to Google and search us.
okay. So I'm gonna put Botsplash.
Yep.
All right. So I've got Botsplash up.
And scroll down. You see chat.
I see message. Yeah.
Yep. Send me a
Wonder
message.
if I can get. Okay. I don't know if that it doesn't really come in with the light, but
Yeah.
there's a message. Okay, and then it says open.
Maps.
Yes.
Yes, go for it.
Why would I open Maps to message? Okay. All
So
right. Go to set. It says get notified with this business when this business responds. So I say go to settings and then
yep.
toggle allow. Right.
Send me a message.
Okay. Hold on. So now it sent me to apps. Oh, notifications on.
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, you don't need to, do all of it, but essentially, if you sent me a
Oh yeah.
message,
So now I have a welcome to Botsplash. How can I help you?
you go.
Hello, Botsplash. Well, that's cool. Why have I never seen this? Is it on all? It's on all the searches. I just never noticed the message.
Yes, and it's only by mobile.
Okay, this is oh, well, I got a response from you, and I just haha. um, so that's so interesting that they have it in the Maps app.
Yes, and the goal of it is essentially right, like you have local businesses. This would be greatly applicable to like branches and retail offices. So if
Yeah.
you have a retail office in South Carolina, and let's say I do a search for Acme lender, or who are all the mortgage lenders around me, and Google, you know how Google works. They always want to make it easy. And if they have the ability to message directly from the search results, they wouldn't even want you going to the website. So they want to add value right on Google searches.
Okay, so I'm just going to do another quick search. I'm just going to put Bank of America in.
Oh, it's not enabled for them.
It's not.
You got to
Okay.
work with, yeah.
Oh,
You
okay,
have to just,
that was my question was, okay, well, how, so obviously there's some testing going on. Is that accurate? And that
you have to
some
be
are,
enabled on the platform. We are integrated with Google. That's how we can have messaging for us, as well as we can enable it for our clients. So
okay.
you have to be integrated with the Google platform to enable it for you.
Okay. So there's some beta
Integration, yeah.
integration going on that you guys are allowed to do or able
Yep.
to do this, and maybe a few others or whatever. That's really cool. I wonder how. I mean, this makes a lot of sense. And how long have you guys been testing this?
We've been live for a month now.
For just a month.
Yep.
And assuming obviously you're not a Bank of America, which is getting millions of searches. Unfortunately, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
But so the I'm not have a lot of people likely not used it, or how much has it been? I guess it's just too early to tell. How many people are actually going to use this feature.
It's too early to tell, but it also leaves you a point to think what is to come. Like
Okay.
today, it's just texting. What if Google came out with FaceTime on search results? So you can see what use cases might come forward to remove that fiction from I search something, and do I have to do 10 things before I get to an agent, versus I search something and right now I have an agent.
Yeah, that is amazing. And that's looking at it forward thinking, how people can interact immediately from a search page with a representative,
Yeah.
either text bot or video or phone. Um,
Because one of the things, Michael, I feel is, I don't know how people listening to this might feel. We are putting a lot of emphasis in like content, video, uh, having a voice, being an influencer. What we are missing out is essentially we have to build for the FaceTime generation. We have to build for the Fortnite generation that is very conveniently talking to 20 people at the same time. They
Uh-huh.
would expect if they are buying a home to talk to Alexa and say, hey, Alexa, how many loan officers do I have? What are their ratings? Okay, I like number 3, schedule an appointment with number 3. Or give me the information of number 3 on my phone. I'll talk to them, and I expect that loan officer or processor to be available via video chat on the other side. So while
Immediately.
content, yes, so while content and having the likes and promos and going viral is great for business today, we also have to think long term that once the influencer market is impacted, or once you people change the algorithms of how they rank your content, what's next? What would be the shift in technology, and how will you be ahead of game, or at least exploring to get there? And
Yeah.
the one thing that remains common is data. Data is always going to be highly influential, and the more you can house your own data and build the right customer journeys based on that data, I think that's where the most value comes in.
Do you think when you look at, like, when you kind of look at these new generations and you talk about, FaceTime, and you're right, um my kids, I have a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old, and they're FaceTiming and they're doing all kinds of stuff. Hardly, I don't think I've seen my son, 13, on the phone talking. I mean, actually, maybe once, but it's FaceTime, it's text, all this sort of thing. Do you think that that's different though with friends, right? With
Mhm.
friends, you're okay with, maybe being in, not looking the best and all this sort of stuff for video. From a business aspect, do you think that that's going to inhibit any of the trends towards video chat and all that sort of stuff? Because as an older generation myself, I guess I would say I'd be less hesitant to hop on a video chat with people. And even now, I'll get invites with the different video chat things, and I'll usually opt out for the video part of it,
Mhm.
just go on the phone. So my question, long-winded as usual, is: do you think that the video chat is really going to be different for those guys, and they're going to be more um, uh, likely to use it with businesses?
I think so. I strongly think so. I mean, just look at it today, right? You and me are on a video call. Had
Yeah,
this have to be like a audio podcast, yeah.
yeah,
I think
no,
that
yeah,
tells a lot. We came from a generation that did not have websites to having websites to now, like, we knew what fax machines were, and today's kids don't know anything but the small phone screen.
right.
So I think everybody, and even the trends, right? Go natural, be authentic. I think those are all things that are coming together and making it more receptive, no matter how you look, how you dress up. But I think there's always going to be emphasis will be on being presentable. Like, are
Hmm.
you presentable? Can I give you my business? Are you presentable enough to give me the confidence that you will take my business and successfully complete it? So as long as you're presentable and you have the right credentials, and you do your job well, I think business will continue.
Okay, so this Google Messaging has been out for a month, at least with you. Maybe it's been in maybe others longer, or is it literally being beta just opened about a month or so ago?
I don't have much of the details, but
Yeah.
I think like there is another local startup company which does, like, it's called To You Laundry, and they've been using it on text messaging basis to like pick up laundry or schedule a laundry. Uh, how they use it, I don't know. But the advantage that we bring is, let's say, because Bank of America is local and headquartered here, if Bank of America was to use messaging and they did it with Botsplash, then the same thing, right? That would be one of the channels they'd be engaging with. They would not have to go into a Google's platform or a Salesforce platform or another CRM platform, but it'll be like, you're on Botsplash, now you engage with a Google response, now you engage with a Facebook response. So for us, it just made sense to be available on Google or any other channel that is out there. if Telegram was popular or if WhatsApp was popular in mortgage space, we would have probably gone forward and built those integrations too.
Wow, yeah, it's really interesting because now, I start thinking about, okay, this is right now, this example is in a Google Maps select section of the search, right? Where you've got I think it had your map or maybe a picture of, your
Botsplash
location,
logos and
the
yeah,
street
yep,
view or whatever, right?
yep.
Um, but this is a free listing, so to speak. So assuming, this technology, maybe, things will change from click to a website to a message, right? Maybe
Yep.
it's where Google could charge a message, at least
Mm-hmm.
it's it's something that starts the messaging going and in the ads themselves. And instead of clicking on an ad, filling out the form, they just click on the ad and they message.
Yes, yeah, and they have it. If you ran ads, they probably show send a message within that ad. We've not explored much because
Yeah.
for us, our goals are very defined, and any channel of communication we see specifically for messaging, and we see that might have a potential to grow, we go ahead and bring it on the platform. You're intrigued, aren't you?
Yeah, no, it's really cool. Yeah, no, it's great. I'm just keep looking at it, and I wish people could see it, but it's too bright. But it's interesting, and I find it funny, that it's in the Google Map. It's hidden in the Google Maps app, instead of some separate, tool.
They'll be ready when they're ready, but
Yeah, 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 yeah.
it's something that every business should hop on.
Oh yeah, this is going to be this will be massive. And combining it with a Botsplash and a platform that can actually handle these types of messages in an efficient and appropriate way makes tons of sense. So really, really cool. Thanks for sharing that. It's really, really
Yeah.
awesome. I know I can't keep you all day, and we can't chat about this, in which I probably could for the rest of the day, but I want to thank you for joining me and us for the last hour. And like we were saying earlier, if someone wants to reach out to you, just maybe Google Botsplash and send you a message.
Yep. Or
Done.
go to the website. Anything. Any channel of your preference, we'll be there.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much again. I will we'll see you in January at Lead Generation World, and talk to you then.
Thanks, Michael. It's been a really, really great pleasure talking to you. Thank you.